Let's talk a little bit about smartphones. Now, we all know they cost so much money, right? You want one of the latest smartphones, $1,000, $2,000, $2,000 plus at times, right? Now, many companies are offering you a way to get one of the latest and greatest smartphones, maybe one that's 1 or 2 years old, at a reduced price by going to the used market. Now, Amazon, Best Buy, even the carriers themselves, like Videotron and Rogers, they sell pre-owned used phones in their stores on their websites. Of course, you can go to eBay and Kijiji as well to buy a used second-hand smartphone. But what should you know when you're going to go the pre-owned route? Let's go to Sylvie De Bellefeuille, who's on the line, a budgetary consultant and legal advisor for Option Consommateurs. Sylvie, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you.
So what should I be considering here? I don't want to spend $2,000 to buy the brand new phone that's new, but I have some money to spend. I want to go to the used market, the pre-owned. What should I know?
Well, the first thing to know is that the protection that we have depends on how we buy the phone. So if I go to a store for a refurbished or pre-owned telephone, I will still be protected by the Consumer Protection Act, which provides me with a better protection than if I go to a peer-to-peer kind of situation. For example, if I buy it from Marketplace or Kijiji, for example. So it doesn't mean that I don't have any protections if I buy it from a consumer in particular, but should there be fraud or should the person disappears, it might be more difficult to have a refund or protection itself than if I go to a store that already has also a customer service.
Okay, so that's good to know. And let's take the example of that refurbished phone. The sometimes they call it pre-loved. I love the terms that they use, right? So let's say you get it from, the Videotron store, or you go with the Apple refurbished, let's say. Do you have the same protection as if you bought it brand new?
It will be a little less, as when we buy something, there are different guarantees that comes with it. There's the guarantee that comes from the retailer or another retailer, but the company who makes the phone, example Samsung or Apple, for example. But there's also the legal protection, which is within the law. Now, the legal protection says that basically what I buy should have a reasonable length, should last for a reasonable length of time, depending on how much I spent, the condition of the contract, and the way that I use the object. Mm-hmm. So, of course, if I buy something that is used, I will not expect to have as much guarantee or as much length of guarantee as if I buy something new, but there's still something that has to be reasonable.
So with that in mind, right? So what is deemed reasonable? Let's say let's start off with the new phone, right? So let's say we were to buy a new smartphone from Samsung, Google, Apple, all of those big brands. What is the reasonable lifespan of a smartphone in the eyes of Quebec's consumer protection laws?
It is difficult to say because it's not something that is fixed within the law.
Uh-huh.
But there is a tool that is available on the website of the Office de la Protection du Consommateur. What they did is they took judgments that were rendered by the court. So it could be from both new phones or used phones. And people can see judgments and try to figure out, depending on the situation, what judges have said earlier about a similar situation. So it's really a case-by-case scenario, of course, and it also depends on the use that I made of the phone. So, for example, if I dropped it in a pool, chances are it might not be as well protected if
Yes.
I simply did not, as it just simply didn't work.
So then I guess we'll wrap up here on this subject. What do you see, generally speaking, when a Quebecer is buying these pre-loved, pre-owned phones from a big company, whether they're buying it from Best Buy in their section or they're going from a carrier and buying those pre-owned phones? Are most companies that are doing business in Quebec providing that type of support after purchase and living up to that standard?
Well, it's hard to say because when people call us, it's rarely because everything's going well.
Uh-huh.
So it is. So I cannot say that this or that company is better than the other, but at least when you buy something from a store, there can be a better protection. Now, it doesn't mean that one should not buy anything from a used phone from other markets, but when we go on peer-to-peer platforms, there's still a risk that there will be fraud as well. So we all heard of horror stories about people trying to buy things online. And the problem is when we transfer money by an Interact, for example, the money is completely lost.
Gone.
So the best advice if a person buys a phone from another particular, for example, would be to first meet the person, try the phone before transferring any money, because if that person simply disappears, we end up paying for something that doesn't work.
And just to wrap up here, does the law say anything about a number of days where no questions asked, they have to take the return on a pre-owned phone? You buy it, and let's say 2 weeks later, you're like, this phone isn't good for me, and you want to return it. Does anything change if it's pre-owned versus new? I
did not check for that. The code for services, this is something that I would have to check, but I'm not too sure about it.
Okay.
So I would not be able to provide a clear answer on
Sylvie,
that.
we'll leave that question for another day. I want to thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
That's Sylvie De Bellefeuille, a budgetary consultant and legal advisor for Option Consommateurs.